Ciao, I'm Mary Ann Esposito. Today on Ciao Italia, la verza. Today is all about cabbage, stuffed cabbage. And what we're going to make today is something called la verza ripiena, which means stuffed cabbage in Italian. And when I do it, I like to use a Savoy cabbage. And why is that different from regular cabbage? Well, it's a much better taste. It's not as thick a taste as real cabbage. It's not as pungent. And the leaves are softer and they are wrinkly. See how pretty they are? And it's called Savoy cabbage because originally this cabbage came from right up here in the Piedmont, where the Savoy family ruled. So that's why it's called Savoy cabbage. So originally came from northern Italy. So when people stuff cabbage, cabbage rolls, cabbage leaves, cabbage wraps, whatever you want to call them, they usually take the leaves off and they boil them. But I have a better way to do this. So let me show you what I do. First of all, you want to take that core off. And then you want to take your leaves, try to be gentle with them. So for this recipe, we're using pork as our filling. So you're going to want probably 10 to 12 leaves. And what I do instead of boiling the leaves is microwave the leaves. And the reason I do that is because, first of all, I don't have to get a big pot of boiling water going. I don't have to cook these until they're all soft. I don't have to waste the vitamins that are being leached out into the water. In the microwave, they will soften beautifully, and I'll be able to take that core out very easily, and that's the easy way to do it, and you also preserve a lot of the vitamins. So take off as many leaves as you think you're going to need. For this recipe, you probably need 10 to 12 to fit a 9 by 13 casserole dish for a pound of pork. You could use turkey, you could use ground chicken, whatever. So I've got to put these in the microwave, and depending on how sturdy the leaves are, it's going to take somewhere between 25 to 30 seconds to get these wilted. So if you didn't believe me, here it is, all wilted. But you notice how beautifully green it stayed. So now you have your vitamins there intact. That's far different from this stiff one when I put it in the microwave. So it becomes extremely limp because you need that limpness in order to roll them. So once you have them like that, you just want to set them aside and work with the filling. So for the filling, we are using pork. So let me get some. Here we have a pound of ground pork. Or, if you don't like pork, you could use ground turkey. You could use ground chicken. So in a bowl, we want to make almost like a meatloaf mixture. So let's add an egg and just kind of beat that up a little bit. We have got some garlic, 2 cloves of garlic, an onion, minced, we've got salt and pepper, obviously, pepper, parsley, Italian flat leaf, about 1/4 cup of that, a dash of paprika, about 1/4 teaspoon of that, some dried oregano. And when I use oregano, I like to get it like this, see? You can find this really in Italian grocery stores, or sometimes you can find it in a regular grocery store, or you can get it if you happen to be visiting Italy. So I'm going to put some dried oregano in there. I like oregano, so maybe about a teaspoon or so, whatever you like. That aside. And let's mix that up all together. I like to do the clean things first before I put the meat in. And with this, we're going to have some barley. So here we have barley. Barley is a cereal grain. So you need about a cup of barley cooked. So this is pearled barley. You can buy it in your grocery store. This becomes a nice binder. If you don't want to use barley for the filling, you could always use a rice. You could use a brown rice, a regular rice. You could use quinoa. There are options here, but today we're using barley. And it's loaded with fiber. So let's put some barley in here. Mix that all up. And these are going to bake in tomato sauce. There are many ways to make cabbage rolls, and different cultures have different ways to do it. Here's some grated Pecorino Romano cheese. That's that sheep's milk cheese. We're going to add that to our mix. And now I really have to get my hands into this, and my hands are clean. When you're dealing with raw meat, you always want to make sure that your hands are clean and then wash your hands afterwards. So the meat goes in, and now you want to break it up and mix it with all of these ingredients. I just think that this is a great winter dish. And of course, whenever I think about cabbage, I think of cabbage as a winter vegetable. And it's got a lot of vitamins, so you should really use it in as many ways as you can with the rest of that head of the Savoy cabbage that I didn't use. I know you're wondering, what are you going to do with that? Well, what I'm going to do with that is make a non-Italian coleslaw, because my husband loves coleslaw, so nothing gets wasted. Or you could chop it up and put it into soup and use it that way. All right, once you have this well blended, then we're going to start to fill our cabbage rolls. I'm so glad I thought of this. I never use the microwave for anything. I just heat water in it, but I never cook in it. But then one day I thought, what if I wilted the leaves in the microwave? Okay, so now you see, they're pliable. We can roll them. They're green. So they have that core area right there. What I do is I just take out a little bit of that, see, just to allow me to make just a little slit right there, because that's going to be easier to roll. So then you take your mixture and you plop some right there. This is going to be so delicious with all these different flavors. You plop that in, and then you fold that edge in that you just nipped a little bit. Fold this edge in, fold that edge in, fold this edge in, and roll. See? Beautiful. So I started doing some earlier for you. Let me show you. You put them in a bake dish where you've got a layer of tomato sauce that obviously you made yourself, right? And then you just keep going like this. So let's do a few more. So here's a smaller leaf. Now, as you take the leaves off, of course, they are going to get smaller, in which case you have to say to yourself, I think I need to patch, and that's perfectly fine. So what I do is I just take another cabbage leaf and kind of overlap them like that. I put the slits towards the center, and then you just go right ahead and fill again. And don't be skimpy. Add enough filling. Again, fold the leaves over, fold over, and you make a beautiful bundle. Okay, here's another one. Take out that center core. This is such a hearty dish. You know, everybody loves this, and you can make this ahead of time. They're better the next day reheated, like a lot of foods are always better the next day. Again, I'm putting that slit area towards the center. Taking some of that mixture again. You can freeze these as well. You can make them ahead of time, bake them, freeze them, then just defrost them. You need them. I don't even need a toothpick for this. This is perfect. A lot of people like to put toothpicks to hold them together, but you really don't need them, and you don't need to tie them with string either. So here's our last one that we're going to patch. And one or two of these is a serving. Now, other fillings, if you didn't want to use meat, would be like potato, Swiss chard and cheese. There are many, many options for this, so you don't have to use meat if you don't want to. You could always use a vegetable filling for this. I've done it with eggplant, with zucchini and rice. Okay, so again, patch, fold, fold, over, and there's our last one. So now, the oven's on at 350 degrees. You want to give this some tomato sauce right over the top. Okay. And you can get a beautiful recipe for making your own tomato sauce on the Ciao Italia website, where you can get a lot of things. Okay, it's looking great. And now we are going to put a sprinkling of Parmigiano Reggiano over the top. Your oven, as I say, is on 350. This is probably going to take 35 minutes. You want them really hot when they come out of the oven, and they're ready to go. But we're not done. Next up, cabbage croquettes. So here we have shredded cabbage. Excuse me, you can do that just with a knife, or you can do it in a food processor if you want to. This is also what you would do if you were going to make that coleslaw that I was telling you about. So we have shredded cabbage here that's all going to cook down. But we need to flavor that with something. So we're going to start with some mushrooms. So you want about a half a pound of mushrooms. You can slice them thin or thick, however you want them, because they're all going to be sauteed. But make sure that you wipe them off first, either with a wet paper towel or use a mushroom brush, which you can find in any store. And I like to use my tomato knife to cut mushrooms because mushrooms are rather soft. So get those all cooked, all sliced rather. And then we're going to add something really special to these croquettes. So there are our mushrooms. We're just going to set them aside. Now, let me talk to you about this wonderful product, Speck Alto Adige IGP. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Speck. This is a ham that comes from the Alto Adige region of Italy, way up north. And it is not only an air-dried and salted ham, but it's also a slightly smoked and seasoned ham. And you'll know that it's seasoned by looking here, see on the crust? So each producer who makes this ham starts with really good thighs, pig thighs, and then makes a mixture of garlic and salt, juniper berries, oregano, coriander, cumin, in whatever combination they want. So each ham is different. It's an artisanal product. And then it is smoked, slightly smoked, and air-dried. And it can be eaten as an antipasto. So here we have it thin sliced, like this, where you would have it with cheeses, some crusty good bread, some olives, some marinated vegetables. So it's all ready for the eating. Or you can cook with this, yes. So I'm going to take a chunk of this. And what you want to do is dice this up. You want about 1/4 of a pound of the speck. And this product is an IGP, as I said. Now, what exactly does that mean? Well, IGP means that part of this production of this ham has to take place in a certain area of Italy, in northern Italy, not the entire production. If the entire production took place, that would be a DOP, but this is not DOP, this is IGP. So you want to just remember that when you're looking for a product like this, you want to get the authentic thing. So Speck Alto Adige IGP. So once this is diced, then we can add this to our onions. I'm going to take a little bit more of that because I know that I need it. Just dice it. Some people like to trim off that fat, but I think it adds extra flavor, so I'm not going to do that. All right, that's good. Now we need to get some olive oil going in a saute pan. We've added 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil to a saute pan. And now we're going to add the onions. So you want 1 onion. It's minced. And with this, the speck. The speck goes in. This is going to add great flavor to the croquettes. And we want to cook this until that speck cooks down some. Take a couple of minutes. And now we abbia pazienza. There goes 1 clove of garlic minced. You want to put the garlic in after you've got those onions wilted down because you don't want the garlic to burn. Here are the mushrooms. We add those and we're going to cook this now until those mushrooms start to exude their liquid. You can see how much our mushrooms have wilted down. There's a lot of water in mushrooms, so we wanted some of that water to come out. Now everything's looking beautiful. We can add the shredded cabbage raw with this mixture. Don't move it around too much because we need that to let that cabbage wilt down. We're going to put a cover on it. And then we can mix it. And then we can add it with the cannellini beans. Now you can see how much that cabbage has cooked down. This is smelling really good. A real alpine dish with the speck Alto Adige as the flavoring, the star flavor here in this pan. So now we can take this off the heat and add it to some cannellini beans. There it is. Beautiful. I'm going to add it right to these cannellini beans. I have mashed cannellini beans in here. You can buy them in a can in the grocery store. If you don't want to use cannellini beans, you could use something else. You could use chickpeas if you wanted to. So all that mixture goes in, and we want to give that a good mix with the cannellini beans. And the cannellini beans are here as a binder for this. Think about this. This is a really healthy dish. So we're going to mix this all together. When it's cool, then we're going to form it into croquettes, and then we're going to fry them. So here's our mixture. It's cooled down now. So now we can work with little clumps of that. You can make these as big or as little as you would like. Let me get a clump full. Just kind of press it together. Okay. To like an oval shape a little bit. And then you plunk them in flour. Okay. And shake off the excess. Put them on a plate. Let's do a couple more. This is a great first course. It's great for a party because you can get these all put together ahead of time and then all you have to do is fry them. And you see why you need the beans, because that kind of holds this mixture together. Get them in the flour. And then reshape them on your dish. So I'm going to fry these in some sunflower oil. I wouldn't use olive oil for this, it would be just too heavy. Or you could use just vegetable oil if you want. So really compact them. You've got the speck in there, you've got the cabbage, you've got the beans. There's that one. And let's do one more. So that oil is at 375 degrees. Out of a recipe like this, you could probably get close to a dozen. You can make them up the day ahead of time and then just fry them the next day. Again, roll them in the flour. Shake off that excess. Okay, now I have to wash my hands, and then we're ready to fry. You want to lower them into that oil gently. And just let them go until they're browned. Those look great. Then we take them out onto absorbent paper. Beautiful. Imagine how good this is going to taste with all those wonderful flavors we have in there. And that one just a little bit more on that side. Good to go. These should be eaten hot. So there they are, the croquettes, made with speck, Alto Adige, IGP, cabbage, and lots of wonderful ingredients. Who knew cabbage could be so good? In Italian, that's la verza. And today we made it two ways for you. We worked with Savoy cabbage. And remember I told you that was a cabbage that came from northern Italy in the Piedmont region of Italy. So first we started by making stuffed cabbage rolls. And we wilted our cabbage down in the microwave. And then we made a filling of pork and barley and spices. Rolled the cabbage leaves around it, baked it in the oven in tomato sauce. And now all it needs is a little hailstorm of grated Parmigiano Reggiano cheese. I would serve 2 per person. And then we made these, the little croquettes, the cabbage, the shredded cabbage that we flavored with onions and mushrooms and speck, Alto Adige IGP, that wonderful smoked, seasoned, and cured ham from the Alto Adige region of Italy. And until I see you nella cucina again, I'm Mary Ann Esposito. Ciao! We are standing on Corso Venucci in front of Sandri's. This is a really special pastry shop to me because when I first came to Perugia years ago, I took a lesson in here with Signora Carla, who is really a pastry magician. And she taught us how to make the eels of Trasimeno, which are very classic here, and lots of other things. And if you look in this window, you can see some of the beautiful desserts that you can find in Sandri's. These are particularly wonderful, the torts, the tarts, with the fresh fruit on top, done in a pastry shell that has a little pastry cream underneath. But for me, the real crowning glory, for me, this is what says Sandri to me, because these are the eels of Trasimeno, or what is called torciglione, meaning eels, because they're in the shape, they're a yeasted sweetbread with almonds, and you can use raisins for the eyes. They're shaped like eels because you find the eels here in the largest lake in Umbria, which is Lago Trasimeno. So the eels of Lago Trasimeno, delicious with a cup of espresso or cappuccino, but along with the eels of Trasimeno and the Sacher torts, they have terrific biscotti, all kinds of biscotti for dunking in your espresso or to have with your cappuccino, or maybe a little bit of vin santo. They also have wonderful chocolate candies in here that are made here, so you must come to Sandri's.